On December 5th, an open manifesto titled, "A Proposal for Xi Jinping to Resign," suddenly exploded across the internet. The article listed, point by point, the various retrogressive actions taken during Xi Jinping's more than 10 years in power: cross-border kidnappings, abolishing term limits, enforcing the harshest literary inquisition in history, Xinjiang concentration camps, economic interference, family privileges, and even a luxurious mausoleum. The intensity of the criticism, targeting the core of power, instantly ignited public opinion. But what truly unnerved Beijing was the total loss of control over China's domestic internet. A wave of charging the tower erupted on Douyin. Some users posted Tiananmen Square June 4th photos to commemorate Zhao Ziyang. Others quoted Sun Yat-sen's last words to ironically criticize today's China. Comment sections echoed with the collective sentiment that the age of emperors is over. Before the censors could react, videos and screenshots spread wildly inside China's Great Firewall. Xi Jinping must step down, and the CCP must step down became the most prominent coded phrases. Don't miss the next drop, subscribe and hit the bell. Why did a single manifesto and a sudden tide of tower charging erupt simultaneously in China in 2025? What exactly has been building up behind this outburst of anger? Xi Jinping, sitting atop a volcano of public sentiment, is once again being scorched. On December 5th, the overseas X-platform blogger, Tiny Reverie, published a manifesto titled, "A Proposal for Xi Jinping to Resign." The article directly attacked Xi on three fronts: his capability, his character, and the legitimacy of the system he upholds. The tone was sharp, the firepower overwhelming, and it quickly ignited global discussion. The article accused Xi Jinping of placing his personal interests above national interests, being narrow-minded, and abusing the state apparatus as a tool of private revenge. The most shocking example cited was the Causeway Bay Books incident and the Gui Minhai case. Gui Minhai merely planned to publish a book involving Xi's personal scandal. The Xi administration kidnapped him from Thailand, forced him to renounce his Swedish citizenship, and paraded him in a televised confession. The author condemned this as treating public power like a private toy, extremely harmful and with grave consequences. For a head of state to take such drastic actions over such a trivial matter makes Xi unqualified, both as a national president and as a citizen. If abusing public power reflects a character flaw, then amending the Constitution to abolish presidential term limits directly shakes the institutional foundation of CCP rule. The article fiercely condemned Xi's constitutional revision. The position of state president is merely a post, no different from that of a manure collector. Yet Xi insists on treating it as an imperial throne, attempting to rule for life. In the 21st century, this is tantamount to turning 1.4 billion people into political appendages, dragging the nation back into a quasi-imperial era. The manifesto listed additional charges, enforcing the harshest literary inquisition of the internet age, depriving citizens of freedom of speech, association, and movement, implementing concentration camp-style governance in Xinjiang, and interfering with the economy with amateurish, heavy-handed policies. It stated that Xi opposes student movements, suppresses the revolution of our times, and is an unmistakable contemporary counter-revolutionary. It further accused him of tolerating corruption among relatives and building an extravagant mausoleum for his father Xi Zhongshuan, one said to be even larger than ancient imperial tombs, revealing his boundless arrogance. One highly viral line from the article read, "This is a regressive, upgraded version of the Cultural Revolution, an authoritarian restoration disguised in modern clothing." The piece also targeted Xi's mega-projects such as the Belt and Road Initiative, Xiong a New Area, and the Guangdong-Hong Kong-Macau Greater Bay Area, describing them as grandiose, detached from reality, flashy at the start yet hollow in execution, wasting trillions of the people's resources. The author's final conclusion: Xi Jinping's capabilities, character, and the demands of our era are fundamentally incompatible. If he continues to rule, he will bring profound disaster to the country and the people. In summary, we propose that Xi Jinping resign. The manifesto triggered intense debate. Overseas commentators split into two camps. One camp said, "Absolutely do not resign. Only with him accelerating the collapse can the CCP fall sooner." The other responded, "Whether he steps down or not is meaningless. Only the end of the CCP as a whole can bring hope to China. Others went straight for the core. It's not about stepping down, it's about accountability. This was not merely a resignation proposal. It was an eruption of long-suppressed collective emotions. When even the idea of resignation becomes a luxury, when calling for stepping down is labeled as subversion of state power, when speaking the truth comes at the cost of prison or disappearance, this itself becomes the most direct and painful indictment of today's China. The crisis manufactured by the CCP has pushed public anger to a breaking point. If the manifesto was a sudden earthquake in public discourse, then the force amplifying and irreversibly spreading this quake was the real-world struggles unfolding across China. China's economic foundation is eroding. Ming Chucheng, professor emeritus of political science at National Taiwan University, pointed out sharply that China's economic boom relied on the industrialization dividend beginning in the 1980s, cheap labor, cheap land, and cheap utilities. By around 2010, these advantages were exhausted. Worse still, since she took power, he has introduced a series of self-destructive policies: zero COVID, the forcible takeover of Hong Kong, state advances private retreats, and the trade war with the US. These decisions directly dragged down economic growth, causing the wealth of countless families to evaporate overnight. The most terrifying collapse has been in real estate. Giants like Evergrande, Country Garden, and Vanke fell one after another. Real estate accounts for nearly one-third of China's economy through its supply chain. When real estate collapses, downstream industries collapse, and the financial system faces immense stress. What was once the foundation of household security has become a deadly trap. Decades of savings turned into undeliverable, unfinished homes. People cannot move in, yet mortgage payments continue. Defaults and bankruptcies rise month after month. But what angers people even more than economic hardship is the blatant privilege displayed by CCP officials and elites. While ordinary citizens worry about mortgages, tuition, and even basic meals, the so-called official lords and princelings live in another world, protected by laws that seem tailored for them. Even when they commit crimes, their wrongdoing is lightly covered up. The Jiangyu school bullying case was the most visceral example. On July 22nd, in Jiangyu City, Sichuan Province, a 14-year-old girl was bullied, with the entire incident filmed and circulated online. But what ignited the public's fury was not just the violence, it was the perpetrator's words. "Do you think we're afraid of you? We've been detained more than 10 times already. We're out in less than 20 minutes. This statement clearly implied, "We have backing. We're untouchable. You can't do anything to us." Local police later classified the victim's multiple injuries as minor, and the perpetrators received only criticism and education. This was equivalent to telling everyone, in this system, the dignity and safety of ordinary people cannot compete with the privilege of those who have connections. Anger soon spilled from the internet onto the streets. On August 4th, crowds gathered outside the Jiangyu city government to demand justice. Some even shouted "Down with the Communist Party," and Xi Jinping stepped down. A school bullying case had transformed into a political protest, a concentrated eruption of bottom-level resentment. Meanwhile, Guizhou's funeral reform hit another deep nerve. The government forcibly demolished graves and imposed mandatory cremation, even digging up bodies to cremate them. Protests and clashes with police broke out. At one scene, a protester shouted, "If the Communist Party wants to dig up graves, start with Xi Jinping's ancestral tombs." More disturbingly, privilege has been codified into law. Article 136 of the new Public Security Administration Punishments Law, effective January 1st, 2026, states that drug use records shall be sealed. Under a promotional video for this law, the comment from Non-Tung Culture and Tourism saying, "Which princeling used drugs?" went viral, gaining 4 million followers overnight and topping trends. Netizens questioned, who is this law really meant for? Will such a beautiful provision ever apply to ordinary citizens? In CCP China, everything exists to serve and protect the privileged class. When the economy was still functioning, people endured. But now, when survival itself is difficult, the anger rising from deep within is no longer about specific incidents. It is a rejection of the entire power structure. This is why Xi Jinping stepped down, and the CCP stepped down have increasingly become rallying cries. Douyin erupts with a tower charging wave. The more the authorities clamp down, the more panic they reveal. The tighter they control, the more resistance they provoke. Despite ironclad censorship, Chinese netizens have displayed remarkable courage and creativity, turning the call for stepping down into sparks of action. Douyin, the CCP's most tightly controlled platform, unexpectedly became the outlet for public sentiment. In recent days, more and more users began charging the tower. Some directly posted June 4th photos, commemorating Zhao Ziyang. Others left comments quoting Zhao's words at Tiananmen. "You are still young. I am already old and it doesn't matter for me." Students filmed themselves in classrooms, waving their arms and shouting, "Long live! Long live!" Another lay on the ground, coughing while saying, "When will the Chinese people understand that the age of emperors is over?" The camera then shifted to a portrait of Sun Yat-sen. "For 40 years, my goal was to seek freedom and equality for China. To achieve this, we must awaken the people and join with the world, striving together for equality among nations." In the past, such videos could never survive censorship, and no one dared post them. But now they spread like wildfire. Many videos were deleted too slowly. Comments had already exploded. One shout of "Long live" brought 10 replies of freedom. One photo ignited hundreds of messages. These were not organized resistance groups, they were decentralized awakenings. Under a video about Poland abolishing communism, Chinese netizens collectively charged the tower. Evil cults must be eradicated. Czech Republic banned it a few days ago, only a few left now. There are still two suns. One is North Korea, the other you guess. Poland is a normal country, congratulations. Eliminate the conditions that create suns from the root. A good party is one that keeps the people in its heart. Polish people are afraid of losing their children. Netizens used humor to mask anger, sarcasm to cover grief. Yet every sentence carried enormous political risk. As the CCP chased after posts to delete them, users reposted them again and again. Commentator New Highland noted, "The proposal for Xi Jinping to resign is not the first, and it will certainly not be the last." Since 2013, calls for Xi's removal have never stopped, only shifted from undercurrent to tidal wave. The 2016 open letter, the 2018 ink splash protest, Su Zhiyong's 2020 letter persuading Xi to step down, the 2022 white paper revolution, the 2024 overseas joint statement, and now the collective online awakening of 2025. Su Zhiyong, the renowned legal scholar still imprisoned today, wrote in 2020, "7 years ago, I hoped you would lead China toward constitutional democracy. That was the people's expectation. Instead, you imprisoned me for 4 years. 2 terms have ended. Return home and rest. Even the most powerful dragon repents at the peak. Do not wait until tragedy strikes and regret comes too late." For years later, people no longer expect persuasion. Resignation itself has become unattainable. Calling for stepping down is criminalized as subversion. But the real shift is not just among those who dare to comment. It is among those who dare to wake up. One user said in a video, "Pursuing happiness is the right of the people. Bringing happiness is the duty of the government. We must abandon the mistaken belief that the people's well-being is a gift from the state." Another stated outright, "The people are becoming more awake, de-brainwashing." These statements are no longer whispers from a few. They are becoming widespread consensus. For the past decade, the CCP maintained order through information lockdown. But when the young begin to question, the middle-aged begin to worry, and the elderly begin to complain, this order begins to crack. These tower-charging videos, comments, and coded messages are not isolated incidents. They're different expressions of one fact. Public sentiment is breaking through censorship, and censorship is losing control. Once the online sphere loses control, the streets will form. Once the streets form, there is no return to the old equilibrium. This new wave of step-down voices is not aimed at Xi anymore. It is directed at the silent. It is for those who will take to the streets next time.